Before diving into this incredible story, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Here, every story has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. The courtroom was silent, every breath seeming to melt into the air, heavy with heat and anticipation. The judge, a stern-faced man with salt and pepper hair, watched the little girl standing straight before him. Her eyes shone with an intelligence surprising for her age. "I can read your mind," she said calmly, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. A light but mocking laugh escaped the judge. He raised an eyebrow. "Oh, really? And what would you see, little girl, in the mind of a judge?" he asked, amused by the child's apparent innocence. The little girl smiled slightly. Her fingers played with the hem of her dress, but her eyes never left those of the judge. "I know you think I'm too young to understand what's going on here, that you're going to underestimate me," she said in a soft but firm voice. The judge laughed again, a little louder this time. But before he could reply, the little girl tilted her head and whispered almost to herself. "But I also know what you have been hiding, and soon, everyone will know." A shiver ran through the room. The lawyers looked at each other, worried. The little girl took a deep breath and declared, in a clear and confident voice, "Your secret, Your Honor, is not only in your mind. It is in these files, in your decisions, and I am going to reveal it." The silence grew thicker. The judge, for the first time, seemed disconcerted. His laughter died away like a candle blown out by a sudden gust of wind. The little girl, unperturbed, simply waited, knowing that the moment of truth was approaching. The courtroom seemed to hold its breath. All eyes were fixed on the little girl, who, against all expectations, was not trembling. "Your Honor," she said, stepping forward firmly, "you are not who you claim to be, and your recent decisions have not been guided by justice, but by fear and guilt." The judge frowned. His usually impassive face betrayed the beginnings of panic. What do you mean, little girl?" he stammered. The little girl took an envelope out of her pocket and handed it to the other party's lawyer. "It's all there. The evidence you tried to hide, every manipulation, every lie. Your judgments weren't neutral. You thought no one would find out. But me. I see everything." The lawyer slowly opened the envelope. The documents revealed dubious transactions, decisions influenced by personal interests, and falsifications that no one could have imagined. The entire room murmured in disbelief. The judge stood up, red with anger and shame. "Who gave you these documents?" he shouted. The little girl inclined her head with a mysterious smile. "Let's just say I'm more observant than you think. And I don't need any help to uncover the truth." The murmur in the room became a roar. Some whispered, "Unbelievable," others, "How could a child?" But the little girl remained calm, motionless, as if she were the center of a universe that had just been revealed. The judge sat down, his hands trembling, unable to find the words. He then understood that his position was no longer solid, that his authority had just wavered under the weight of a truth he could no longer ignore. The little girl silently observed the scene. She knew this was only the beginning. The secret she had just revealed was only the first piece of a much larger and dangerous puzzle. The next day, the courtroom was filled with unusual activity. Journalists had rushed in, alerted by rumors about the scandal revealed the day before. The courthouse corridors echoed with hurried footsteps and anxious whispers. The little girl arrived early, as if she had planned every move. Her eyes shone with an almost supernatural determination. She knew that the judge had not yet gotten over the public humiliation and that his allies would try to minimize the damage. "Are you sure about what you're doing?" asked a lawyer, visibly impressed by her composure. "Yes," she replied simply. "The truth must come out. No matter the obstacles." At that moment, the judge entered. His face was pale, his movements trembling. He had never imagined that a little girl could turn public opinion against him like this. He tried to regain control. "Silence," he ordered, but his voice betrayed his dismay. The little girl looked up at him, her gaze piercing and implacable. Your Honor, you thought no one would notice your schemes. But now everyone knows. And I will make sure that justice is served. Witnesses were called, experts examined the documents she had presented. Each new piece of evidence seemed to confirm what the girl had said. The judge, desperately trying to justify himself, found himself surrounded by the truth, unable to look away from the harsh judgments he faced. In the corridors, the press and the public waited anxiously for what would happen next. Phones filmed every gesture, every expression. The little girl, however, showed no sign of nervousness. She was at the center of a storm that could have frightened her, but she was ready. Then, just when everything seemed to be changing, the little girl made an unexpected gesture. She reached out her hand towards the judge. "You can still repair what you have destroyed," she said softly. "But that depends on your courage to tell the truth now." Silence fell. Everyone present felt that this decisive moment would change not only the judge's career, but also the fate of all those involved. After the shock of the previous day, the judge hadn't slept. Every decision, every manipulated case, every lie he thought he'd buried resurfaced in his mind. He knew now that he could no longer ignore the little girl. But instead of surrendering, a darker idea took root in his mind: eliminate the threat. This child must disappear. He murmured to himself, his gaze hardening with panic and anger. Meanwhile, the little girl, aware of the suspicious glances in the courthouse corridors, was beginning to realize that the battle went far beyond a single corrupt judge. Anonymous phones were monitoring her, and strangers seemed to be following her every move. "I'm not alone," she told herself, "but I must be careful." Her lawyer, worried, tried to warn her. "Jackie, what you did yesterday, you unleashed something much bigger. Some people will never want this truth to come out." Jackie nodded. His eyes shone with an unexpected intensity for his age. "I know. But if I back down now, everything I've revealed will be lost. And the innocent people I'm trying to protect will pay the price." At the same time, the judge, in his office, secretly called an influential ally behind the scenes, a powerful lawyer, accustomed to manipulating the justice system for his own interests. Together, they devised a plan to discredit the girl and regain control of the case. But Jackie had anticipated this reaction. She knew her victory wouldn't be instantaneous and that each step forward put her in greater danger. Yet she continued, guided by a determination that even the adults around her had never seen. That night, on her way home, she felt the weight of responsibility for the first time. The truth she carried could save lives, or attract the wrath of powerful and unscrupulous people. She looked at the stars through the window and whispered, "No matter what happens, the truth will prevail." The courtroom was packed again. This time, it wasn't just a matter of ordinary justice, the whole country seemed to be watching, captivated by this extraordinary story. The little girl entered, alone but determined. Every glance that fell upon her testified to the tension that filled the room. The judge, pale and trembling, knew this was his last chance to redeem himself, or to sink completely. Beside him, his influential ally murmured instructions, but the little girl, with disconcerting calm, seemed to have anticipated every move. "Your Honor," Jackie began, his voice clear and firm, "your lies have cost innocent people their lives. But today, you have the opportunity to right your wrongs. Tell the truth, now." The judge opened his mouth, searching for words, but none seemed strong enough. The girl then produced one last document, irrefutable recordings and proof of all the manipulations and corruption. The murmurs in the courtroom intensified. "You see," she continued, "justice is not just a matter of laws. It is a matter of courage. And courage, Your Honor, you lost it a long time ago." The judge lowered his head. Shame and fear were written all over his face. His accomplices, realizing that the scandal was irreversible, began to back away. I recognize everything," he stammered, unable to meet Jackie's gaze. The murmur in the room turned into a heavy silence. The little girl, impassive, observed the scene. Her voice became softer but more powerful. "Justice has been trampled upon, but it is reborn today. thanks to those who have the courage to speak the truth, regardless of their age. The media, the witnesses, the public, everyone understood that this moment marked a turning point. The judge was suspended, and his accomplices were prosecuted. But beyond the sanctions, it was the example of the little girl that would remain etched in everyone's memory, a child capable of overturning the power of injustice through the strength of her determination and the purity of her truth. As the room slowly emptied, Jackie turned to his lawyer. "The hardest part is not revealing the truth, but continuing to protect those who rely on it," she murmured. And in the silence of the emptied courtroom, there was a feeling of fragile but real peace. Justice, for once, had been served.